Hi and welcome to yet another video. This week it's a very quick one since I didn't have much time, but hopefully you will like it. It's more of an experiment that I've been doing, trying some stuff, and then decided to record this as this week's video. So as you can see, I started creating like one floor and then using the array modifier to duplicate it upwards, and then I just started to inset the shape of the building, and then I imported a image as a plane, and I tried just overlaying it on top of the actual model. But the thing that I did was just to create a similar geometry, but was just like low poly, and put it just on top of the geometry that I had. And then what I did was just to assign a material, and that material has the same texture that I was trying to import as a plane before. This texture is from textures.com. It's one of those like buildings buildings at night or something like that it's called. Yeah, so I am trying to map the texture to the geometry, and to do so I like to go into the shading tab on top and then just like do like a rectangular projection or like a box projection, and then just like start moving each face around the UV. Since it's like a very low poly geometry, it's doable this way. Otherwise you could probably do like a smart UV projection or something like that it's called. Yeah, but since it's like very low poly, this works well. Here I tried duplicating, and I think I crashed right here because it stopped like for a little bit, or maybe not yet. It crashes when we get to the geometry nodes. So then I started playing with the shader just so I have the emission for the texture for the lights. I am clamping the darks so they don't show, and since my shot is going to be like from far away, it doesn't really matter that much. It's like good enough. And the geometry node setup is like very simple. Again, it's just like a point instance, and then assigning the collection of the two buildings that I have to that collection instance. I tried to randomize them just a little bit, and it worked quite well. Here I will use the photographer add-on to play a little bit with the bokeh, with the depth of field, and see if it was like enough for me to move on, if it looked like detailed enough, and it did. And the cool thing about the photographer add-on is that it has like some bokeh textures, something that you can see in some other engines like Octane. There's not a native easy option for Blender, but the photographer add-on is great, so that's what I use. Here I am importing one of those human models. The idea at first was to go for something like a Ghost in the Shell kind of vibe, where Motoko is at the top of the building and she's about to do the famous dive, kind of that vibe. There's a crash, and I had to start over from there. Yeah, so here I know at this point that it's gonna work, so I can put in more time to do some more texturing on the rooftops, because previously I just had like a chrome material, and since I know my shot is going to be seen from top, I need something to look like a rooftop or something. So that's like an asphalt texture that is repeated all along, and I just place it on the top faces. And I am here using some Kitbash models. I think these are Vitalis models. Yeah, just to add some noise on top of the rooftop, so they have some utility and they are not just like a box basically. And I use cubes in here to add some red lights, just to sell the idea that these are tall buildings and planes should be careful with them. Putting some geometry that looks like antennas, a satellite dish, and then repeating the same process, adding some cube, rotating it like 45 degrees in all axes, and then just assigning a red emission material, so it looks like those red lights on top of buildings. Here I will create a new plane and I will assign a texture from I can't remember if it's like LA or maybe Tokyo. It's probably LA. Yeah, so a texture from plane or something of the city at night. So I have just some of that information in my render. I try to scale the texture accordingly so it looks believable. And then I started with the geometry node again. Same geometry node, just like a simple scatter, because previously it crashed, so I had to do it all over again. And here I need to find my shot again, but then as you can see I made the same mistake. I didn't scale the buildings properly. That's again one of the most important things of working on a real world scale, like from the beginning of your process, so then everything just like fits. In this case it didn't, so I had to pull out the original geometry that I modeled, the original building, and I placed that very close to the camera, so I'm basically cheating a little bit. This building would be like huge in real life compared to the other buildings, but that's kind of the idea that we're trying to sell here. It's like kind of a futuristic city at this point. That's why I still have like a female character in there. My idea was to go for some Ghost in the Shell kind of thing. I created a new box so I could assign a body material, as I've done previously, just so there's like some of that bloom and atmosphere in the environment. But then when I reached here, I was like, probably it doesn't look like cyberpunk enough. It's not like Ghost in the Shell enough. So I was thinking, well, maybe I can do something like Batman related. That's something that I tried to do some time ago. And since this was just like an experiment that I was recording, I was like, yeah, let's do that. So I decided to replace the model for like a male model. That's just like kind of looking over the city. But then I thought, well, maybe it's like Batman Beyond or something like that. I still want to make it feel a little bit of a cyberpunk city. So I created these cubes and assigned a white emission material, and then just added it on some of the buildings on the edges that are facing the camera, just so you know it looks like a more futuristic building and not just like a regular skyscraper box or something like that. To be honest, I was being like very lazy in here. I just like tried this method using two buildings, and in theory it's just like the same building, but the second one I just squashed it a little bit and then reprojected the UVs. So if you want to try this at home and make it look more believable, maybe try to model maybe around 5 to 7 buildings that are different shapes and different heights, and also try using like maybe 3 to 5 different building textures, so it doesn't look like very similar. And that's something I had to face later when I get into Photoshop. So here I am exporting the regular passes that I usually do, the workbench render to get an ID pass, the ambient occlusion, emission, volume, and mist, along with the beauty. So here I imported all of those passes into Photoshop, and I tried to denoise the volume pass, but it wasn't successful, so I scrapped that, and then I just started doing the method that you've seen me do many times, which is turn the image to black and white, and then just using an overlay layer on top, painting with white and black to boost the highlights and the shadows. And here's what I was saying about dealing with the repeated texture. So I had to bash a few photos of some skyscrapers to try to break the repetition of the texture. And then I added some smoke coming from the rooftops, kind of giving that more industrial, lived-in city kind of vibe. It's night, you're just hanging on the rooftops, things are going down. Here I couldn't do much more with what I had, and I didn't have more time to put into this. Like, again, if I had to do this again, I would model more buildings. So here I'm just like trying to save everything with the color grading, and I wanted to go with like a Blade Runner kind of grade, since that's also one of my favorite films of all time. And I wanted to get like that cool bluish tint that there's in the city. And here I just like started painting the cape and the cowl of Batman with those long ears. And yeah, then again trying to do everything in my power to rescue the image, just painting on top with overlay with different texture brushes and trying to save the image. A few more tricks and the image is basically done for this week. So see you next week with another video. Thanks and cheers, guys.